And welcome back to The Diplomats and the long-awaited part 2 of our Nexus Season 7 Finals post-game interview with champion Ed Sullivan. Go Horns Go. We are sponsored, as ever, by the wonderful folks at diplomacybriefing.com. And Ed, I think, remind us what we were talking about last time.
We just finished winter of 1906, where Matt got to 10 centers. Matt had, this is the first time in the game where I was not in the lead after year one, even though I'm tied here with Matt. Matt has the tiebreaker, but I had the center count lead the entire time. I explained to you that in the fall of 1906, after sacrificing to get John into Sevastopol, he had decided to help Matt, enraging me, causing verbal fisticuffs between myself and John for, well, a really long time. And it got really personal, and I regret it. And I bet you John does too. But that's just speaks to the emotion of this game. Even John, a 4 center power, 3 center power, was as trying as hard as everybody else. And he had just improved himself to 5. And I think this is around when Lady Razor had released the illustration 4-horse race with John sort of being, 4th. But this is where we are at right now in winter 1906.
Okay, so with John growing and the diplomacy not clear, well, what we now know was at one point an arrangement between Krill and John. How did you approach dealing with John, given that he was behind perhaps what you consider to be your main rival on the board, although Ewok is ready to pounce there as well?
Well, the hilarious thing is John always said that he was always acting in my best interest, even if I didn't recognize it. And would say that to me repeatedly. And the actual truth is he was right, at least in this instance, because instead of being the leader now for the 6th year in a row, we got somebody else. And let's face it, I look weak to Ewok. I certainly look, I cannot hold the East if Italy and Turkey are united. I have deep problems. And so I think I am perceived right now as being extremely weak. And I think I may have been extremely weak. But what happened here was, John alluded to it in his interview, a 3-way chat opened up between Greg, France, Ewok, myself, and John. And yeah, we chatted about the game, but most of the time we spent every evening for a few hours trading jokes, barbs, laughing at our predicaments, making fun of the others. Not meaning Matt, but I mean, like, we'll make fun of John, or, within the 3 of us. And I'm not saying we bonded. We definitely didn't. Everyone was being very sharp, but like, it was relaxing. It was fun. It was great to try and one up. And I think if you remember correctly, John said in his interview, that was his most enjoyable chats. Those were his most enjoyable chats of the game. They went on for a long time, for several years, actually, all the way to the end of the game now. And I think Greg, even though he's made a move here against Matt, albeit a little reluctantly, the 3-way chat allowed all of us to put pressure on the other, right? We can't, Matt is contained if the 3 of us are working together. If the 3 of us are not working together, Matt's not contained. And there was a lot of negotiating about, working together. It really only did well in this next series of moves, which is spring 1907. But at least, I felt like it wasn't totally lost.
Who do you guys think? What positionally is in the strongest position here? Do you think it's Italy? Would you both think that?
Okay, so well, I'm a narcissist, at least according to my soon-to-be ex-wife, and I only view things about like how bad things are for me, and I feel really vulnerable to Italy right now. I was also fairly untrusting of John. Like I said, we had gotten super personal. We had just tried to start repairing it, but like I just didn't trust the guy at all to do anything he said. And in fact, I think he said in his interview, even when we were having this three-way chat, he was releasing everything to Matt anyways, which I don't 100% believe, but at least it's what he said. And positionally, I felt very vulnerable to Ewok as well. I just felt really vulnerable. I wasn't thinking who was doing better as much as I was just like, man, I'm sucking.
Well, Ewok's got spare units to spell out his initials. VI, tagging the board again, not losing STP this time.
So speaking of things that John said that you're not sure you believe, John actually told you that he was looking after your best interest, whether you realized it or not?
At least a dozen times.
Yeah, my urologist says the same thing. I think
he kept saying that, and it's probably true, right? I mean, the stress is starting to get to you when you get to 1907. I sort of felt that in 1906. I think I explained that it was this robbing Peter to pay Paul strategy that I was, playing in the game. And now it's like, I don't got a lot of Peter to pick his pockets anymore. And I suddenly start to realize that 10 is probably going to be the max out for me. I'm not really seeing a lot of growth opportunities elsewhere. I really didn't want to go to Romania. This was all them. So I knew that, this unit would be sacrificed. They didn't say that. It's a spring move. I think the key thing here just is the constant side negotiations and conversations I had with Ewok, right? Ewok and I'm still worried about the fleet situation, even though he's got, he insisted I move to St. Pete, 100% insisted on that. And that was the price for him going to Mid-Atlantic. Now, I didn't actually,
why didn't you just order it to South Coast and say, oops?
Well, yeah, I know. So I did that there. And I'm feeling really, really vulnerable at this point, especially when Greg's fleets don't get through, which, I didn't really think they would, but I at least wanted to see it. And he didn't think so either with the line. But this just makes me feel like, I got to come up with something here. And so
did you smell a rat?
Well, okay. So I think fall 1907 is a critical year. And I'm going to explain the backdrop to the negotiations before that. And then we can look at the moves, which is I'm still in this three-way chat with John and Greg. And I'm really passive aggressive for almost the entire day. And these rounds were going my time around noon or 1 every day. And so usually we're talking in the evening and we're talking moves, but when it got to the evening, even we weren't talking moves. We were still joking around. And so John kept saying, well, tell me what you want to do. And I was like, I don't expect to keep Romania. I don't know what's cooking. I'll just enter any orders you want me to enter. Just tell me, I need a friend. I'm vulnerable. And he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. And then Greg and I wouldn't do it. And we were not talking about moves. And I think Greg spoke about this in his interview. And then finally, John, suggests these moves. He's like, Romania to Serbia, I can't remember, if it was Moscow to Ukraine. And I'm like, and he's explaining how he can cut and do all the things to get me in. And I think it's possible to take one of either Serbia, Romania, or both. And Greg is like, why would you do that, John? That makes no sense. And John's like, well, I would just kill Matt forever. Ed's got to give me whatever back. And so Greg writes to me separately at this point, and he's like, hey, you're getting all this stuff, so you have to give me Holland. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, he's like, he goes, you have to do that. And I wrote him back saying, I don't really believe John's going to do any of this, for the fall. And he basically was like, well, you have to do it. I said, all right, well, if you're moving to Holland, you have to move with North Sea. And I said, and that's if I 100% trust John. And he's like, okay. All right. Well, I at this point, I go back to Eric's old adage of the, people lie and the board doesn't. Like, I really, really wanted to believe John, but I also wanted to believe that this was just a method of getting something blown up. Maybe that's not the worst thing to happen to me, if that happens. But I knew I could never give Greg Holland. I knew that was the final nail, and I felt like I had to assert my position. So you will see what happens here, which is John had leaked all the moves to Matt, blew my unit up. Greg tries to move the army, not the fleet, as he agreed, into Holland. This is constantly referred to as Greg as a stab of me for taking Holland. When it's A, my territory, and B, he said he was going in with the fleet. The real upsetting play was moving to Norway. That's where Greg, he didn't lose it ever emotionally, but you could tell he was angry there.
I've got a rule for situations like this. That rule is when you propose dumb shit, you can't call anything I say in response a lie.
So, here we are, and
So I just want to ask, sorry, Ed, the conversation where he asked for Holland, was that after the spring move?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it was after the spring move, but before the fall. It had been discussed at a theoretical level, before, mostly by me sort of placating him if I was in Romania or Sev or something like that. But, none of those things ever occurred. But now, he really, really wanted it. And I could have stopped it the other way, right? Like with Kiel. And I was still trying to work with him and do it this way. But what this sort of resulted in was another round. This was my lowest point. Right here, right now, I was just so enraged, mostly at John. Not that I really thought John was going to keep his word, but there's a part of you that really wants him to, right? Because you can see it, you can taste it. He's confirming, he's saying everything you want. And
was this in your interest without you knowing?
I've played enough diplomacy to know that it wasn't going to happen, but I believed it, and a part of me believed it also. And mentally, I'm not proud of myself. I lashed out at everybody. I was a baby, and I'm just looking here, how can I survive from this position? How can I possibly win? I just don't see it. Now that they're coordinating together, and I was but I was okay with the rebuild. Although oddly enough, when this happened, Karthik messaged me and he's like, I think you're going to win with that move to Norway. And sometimes a broader perspective is needed. And so, So anyways, this is where I was at mentally.
You surprised me, Ed, because I mean, I've not played press with you, but we played virtual, and you always seem kind of jovial and calm. And what made the difference in this scenario? Was it the stakes? Was it the characters? Was it something that the particular way that you felt you'd been wronged? Or
it's the third time that John got me. Third time
in one game.
Yeah, in this game. So I covered the first two, earlier in part one, and this is the third time. And I joke about myself quite a bit. Maybe I could be better tactically, which is definitely true. And I think I'm really good diplomatically, but I can improve there as well. But nobody likes to be made the fool. And fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me three times, shame on both of us. And when you feel like a sucker, that's where it gets into deep emotional stuff, right? And you can't help it. And then add that to the stakes, which is, hey, I've been winning this game. I thought I was doing well. I really wanted to win it. And I didn't get enough chance in the first episode to talk about Pala's importance to me. And I felt like, it's there. The ring is there. When Matt called me Gollum, I mean, that's probably true. I mean, I saw the ring, man. Like when and that just sort of hit me. And it also just told me, it's like, look, we're playing for keeps. And yeah, I've done a lot of wheeling and dealing, and I've lied already, but whatever I can do to advance myself from this, I'm going to.
Now, with the comments that you've made previously, back up to spring 07, Chris.
I got it.
So with your comments previously that, I think 10's my high water mark. I think 10 wins this. And then you get yourself in this position that you're in right here. You're in Ukraine. You're in Romania. You're in Moscow. And I said this in the commentary when we covered this season. I said it at the time. I said, why the hell did John just do that? This game's over. He just lost Sev. Why didn't you take Sev here? Because with you being in Ukraine and you being in Moscow and you being in Sev, that would have taken everything that they had to kick you out of there. And it would have left you still at 10. And I was really surprised here to see you not go for Sev. And is that just because you were drinking John's Kool-Aid?
No, but they had it either way. Galicia's cutting Ukraine. And if John was leaking to Matt, I wasn't going to take Sev. So it's sort of like, all right, if you think there's a 20% chance of one thing happening and a 0% chance of another, that's sort of where you're at. I mean, like, and I mean,
I forgot about Gall cutting Ukraine. Okay, I forgot.
And it was confirmed in John's interview that, the move I should have done was Ukraine to Sev. Okay, I didn't see that. If you want to know the truth,
yeah, you could have just walked in,
and then I could have. I guess I couldn't have retreated to Ukraine because of Galicia being there. But yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't see that move. I didn't know what John was going to do for sure. I mean, so it was hard. And look, I'm kind of at war with Matt, at war with Ewok. John and I in the sense that we really weren't at war, even though he's attacking me here. I know it's strange to say that, but he was the only pivot point between the three of us. That was it.
Do you think if you'd approached Matt Crow here at this point on the board and you said, hey, I'm sick of this John stuff, go ahead and take run back, I won't fight you, I think Matt Crow would have taken that offer, and instead of cutting Ukraine, would have tried to take Romania back, don't you think? Although he thinks he's getting Romania back anyway. So John screwed both you and him here.
I don't know if he thought he was getting Romania back or not, or if this was just some elaborate plan of John and Matt's. But yeah, maybe he thought that. Like, and I'll be the first to admit that I did Matt really dirty. Like, not just, I mean, we're going to go over it all in this second half of the game. And the constant communication between Matt and myself at this point is like, we just don't want Greg to win. And so, no matter how testy it gets between us, remember the overall goal is 1 and 2. And I actually think that's the reason why in spring 1907 he bounces in Bohemia as opposed to trying to take it. And so I'm like, okay. So I'm not really that upset at Matt or anything like that. But, look, it happened.
But John, you are.
Yeah. I've got Greg now mad. He's telling me he's going to pull back. I build the army and I'm like, all right, I'm going to be a little better, I think, building the army. I know I can't get Sev. I'm just like, I just got to hold on. I got 10. The others got 9. It's wheeling dealing time. I just got to hang on here.
So you're just thinking to defend what you have right now. That's your goal.
I had no idea of advancing. I mean, I can see Munich being vulnerable, here. And I was very disheartened at the disband of the Fleet Tuscany. I mean, that told me Matt's coming after me.
The only other unit he could have possibly disbanded is Galicia.
Well, yeah, that would have been nice. I mean, I still couldn't have gained anything there. But yeah, no, he had to pick, right? He had to pick a friend. And he picked Greg. And that makes sense because Greg had the last place in the tiebreaker. So it wasn't unexpected or anything like that. And I want to give credit to Greg around, this point. Because like I said, I was lashing out at everybody. I was lashing, which is unusual for me, Chris, like you pointed out. And Greg wrote to me and he goes, you're the dummy who believed, this John plan. He's like, so like, you should only be mad at yourself. This is not becoming. And he kind of snapped me out of it, at that point. And it's sort of like, yeah, like once you can accept blame, there you go. And I will say one thing, and this is the last bit on this, why this is a crucial season. There's little things in press and talking to people that reveal stuff. And John, before the fall 1907 moves, wrote to me separately and said, definitely don't give him Holland. That made me think I was going to lose this army in Romania. And he was trying to make sure Greg didn't go up, and I was like, okay. So I wasn't totally discouraged at John either. So I'm in a good mental state right now. I don't think I'm going to win, but Greg's got me back mentally on track. And here we go with spring 1908.
What did you make of the Army Con move? Because it was sort of flexible. I mean, he could have done the same convoy from Ankara.
I mean, I sort of expected it, if you want to know the truth. I wasn't sure what was happening. I just sort of had, I knew John still thought he was in it, right? And so if someone thinks and they have the hope that they're in it, I mean, Moscow's got to be one of his dots. So this was not shocking to me that this sort of happened. And I think John was hoping that Ewok would go back against me, that Greg might press the advantage a little west, and he would be able to go up. And that didn't happen. I sandboxed like all this a lot, and this was like the best I came up with, except, I mean, Peter McNamara, of course, pointed out it was a horrible idea to bounce in Moscow. And because of that bounce by Matt in spring 1907, and he had said that we were going to keep Bohemia DMZ'd. I wasn't 100% what he was going to do, and I was worried about the Galicia army. But as it is, this makes Moscow lost, this set of moves. Whereas if I had held Berlin or moved Warsaw to Silesia, Ukraine to Warsaw or something, I could have defended Moscow. And right now, I see this and try and exert all my diplomatic effort to keep Munich. I said Moscow, but I mean Munich.
Well, the really bad thing about this moves is you just came off a season where Italy and Turkey cooperated. And with what moves you did, they could have popped Ukraine.
Yeah, that's right, because of the self-bounce.
They could have popped Ukraine, and you'd have lost Moscow and Warsaw if they'd popped Ukraine.
Nope. Super dumb play by me. I totally agree. My running assumption is that because Romania should support a unit into Sev, that wouldn't happen. But in retrospect, sometimes playing it safe is the right play, and I should have played it safe, I think.
Was the Moscow to St. Petersburg move offensive or defensive? Like, is it there to support hold Norway in case Edinburgh goes to Norwegian, or are you thinking about, soon I might be able to get an army over onto the island?
Defensive. No, I never thought about getting onto the island, but like right now I'm just like panicked over the fleet situation, and I know the attacks on Holland are going to continue. And I needed to free up Norway if I could, but now I definitely have the army in Sev problem, because what if Greg moves Edinburgh and Norwegian, right? Then Norway's lost, so there's stuff. You like worry about everything at this stage, everything. But now I know Norway's okay.
I wouldn't have taken the chance here of making Kiel the mover, because he could have cut Rohr and taken that dot, and you would not have gotten it back.
Oh, I guess I see that, but he really wanted the army on there.
Right, but he could have sent Burgundy to Rohr, and Belgium supports London to Holland, and you'd have been hosed. I was confused here as to why you didn't take the shot and kick him out of North Sea, because by kicking him out of North Sea, A, you get that North Sea space, and B, you strand that army in London, which basically is like taking a dot from him. If you can strand an army in a worthless place where he's never able to convoy it, you've taken that army off the board.
Well, don't give up hope. It's a spring move, but I was worried about a retreat at that point. And I also knew that, it's going to take another turn or two for for that not to be an available option to me. I think this is part of the reason I moved to Helgoland, right? Which is because I'm trying to make sure that when it does retreat from north, it doesn't completely, mess me up. But yeah, no, I understand the North Sea issue. Like, trust me. Yeah.
John is taking another dot to make himself a big part of this end game.
Yeah, he wins the ultimate tiebreaker.
Didn't take Romania here either.
I'm sorry?
I don't know why Matt Krill didn't take Romania here either.
Well, Matt's a loyal player, And I think Matt would have his opportunities. And I think that the pitch was, I'll help you against Ed, and Max try and get you better center count or something like that. And so the inevitable happens. Okay, so I lose Munich, which is the headline. The below the fold notation is I took the North Sea.
Brilliant tactical play with all the cuts, making sure that Holland stayed safe while you took North Sea. Very well done.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that one I did work on.
I mean, that looks like you contracted me for the orders.
Well, I would say any extended deadline player, which is you still will make tactical errors, not as many as you'll make in face-to-face or virtual, but you have to utilize the sandbox if you are not a good tactical player. Because when you can work out everyone's optimal moves and then decipher the press along with that, it really helps. And I use that all the time. I know, Eric, that sounds horrible to you.
The only value sandbox has for me is I can sit down and I go, now look, this is the thing I just tried to explain to you for 2 hours.
That's been most of this show.
That's all it's good for. It's all it's good for.
I think I'd be better at tactics. I hate to say this if I was a little younger. It's just I didn't pick up the game seriously until my late 40s, and it just doesn't come easily to me. And I'm not ashamed to admit it.
More urology jokes. Boy, urology in this show. Oh, I took that wrong. I'm sorry.
No problem. So this is like I'm angry, but I'm not. I'm angry at myself, and I'm really not emotional at all. All that's sort of gone away, and now I'm just looking at this going, what is the plan? There has to be a path forward, or at least a way to maximize what I can do. What is the plan? Because I have a disband coming up. And I remember your show at the time was like an hour of, what to disband. You disband Ukraine, do you disband Warsaw? Like, what do we disband? And what I came up with was only thing I can do is give an advantage to Greg. If I can give an advantage to Greg, it might freak out John. It might freak out Matt, and it might make them have to work with me. And if I disbanded East, I was going to lose Warsaw or Moscow. I knew that. So I went ahead and disbanded Holland. And it was just basically like, fuck you, Matt. You just took Munich. So why am I going to do anything to help you? I'm affirmatively on Team Greg. That's it. And that's your reward.
This only worked because you were in a time-limited game. If you were not in a time-limited game, if this were a natural game, that would have been the kiss of death.
Yeah, that's probably right. So I disbanded it, and it threw everybody into sort of chaos.
Sitting around licking their chops at what advantage they were going to get from your disband, and then that cold, chilling reality of, oh, I'm not getting shit.
Yeah,
brilliant.
And that was what I came up with, but that was only part one of the plan. I conceived this before it happened, was that I was going to will Matt to leave Munich in the spring. And I just was like, I took and I'm not normally this way. Usually diplomacy is a game of mutual interests, I think, for the most part. And I still pitched that Matt had an interest in doing this. His interest would be to have any chance of victory. But I simply was just like, no, you will give me back Munich, or Greg will get Holland, Greg will get Norway, Greg will get Kiel, Greg will get everything. So no, you have to leave.
So,
and he was like,
all
well,
that all that groundwork, all that game-long groundwork of, look, the number one goal is Greg can't win. This is where it all paid.
So, and yeah, I leaned on that. And I was just like, no. Like, no. And he was getting really frustrated because usually I'm a bit malleable, or I'll try to find the middle ground. That's just my instinct. I mediate cases sometimes as a lawyer, and I'll try and make it work for both. But here's like, no, you have to leave. You have to leave in the spring. If you don't leave in the spring, I don't care what you say you're going to do in the fall. Circumstances always change. It has to be gone in the spring. And I've basically told that to John too. And to Greg, I'm just like, hey, I'm trying to work the Munich thing out for me, but if not, take Holland, go ahead and take it if you can. And so at around midnight, my time, 10 o'clock at night, Matt's time, he writes back. He's like, fine, I'm probably losing the game, but I'll leave Munich. And I wrote back to him and I said, I'm not satisfied. You're doing it out of resignation. You need to do it because it's the right play. I wanted psychologically for him to be invested.
I got a one-finger answer to that. I got a one-finger answer to that.
No, I said it more kindly, but I was like, you need to sleep on this. It's a big decision. I think it's the right one, but I don't want you to get there because you feel like I just verbally wore you down. Get to that decision the next day. We slept. He came back the next day. He tries to argue a bit more. I'm a little more gentle with him. And he goes, I'm going to leave. And this time I knew he was going to leave. I knew it. I didn't even, if I remember correctly, I don't even think I supported a unit in there. Right. And I had promised him support in Romania in exchange. I knew before I did that I was going to go to John and betray him. The whole point, this is the only time really in diplomacy that I thought way multiple moves ahead, starting at the disband, now going through spring.
It's funny how Matt felt when on that late at night when he was arguing with you that the leaving Munich was the thing that was going to lose him the game. According to John, this turn is what lost Matt Quill the game, and it's taking your support into Munich.
Yeah.
Into Romania. I beg your pardon.
Correct. Matt told me he was real concerned about how John would react beforehand. And I was just like, it's 1909, dude. You got to go for it. And meanwhile, I'm sort of pumping Matt up. I mean, he's going to win this game, right? Even though he's giving me back Munich. I'm on Team Matt, Team Krill. And I'm like, you got to go for it. And I'm hoping it sows that discord in John. I really am, because it's all part of the plan I had thought of. But like I said, I've tried to be very honest with the good things and the bad things I did in this game. But after this set of moves, right, like Greg is just like totally shocked. Like he cannot believe it. He didn't even go for Holland, because this is Greg being very cautious, right? He's like, oh, well,
Greg did what I would have done, except I would have covered Eddie.
Yeah, he wrote me, and he was like, I can't believe I missed that. That was an error. We were just joking about it, because I'm still joking with Greg the whole time. Yeah. And even John to some extent.
Because John shouldn't have done what he did. John shouldn't have walked out. John should have told you, look, I understand. Go ahead.
Matt shouldn't have walked out.
Yeah, he should not. Yeah, I said John. I meant Matt. He shouldn't have walked out. He should have said, look, go ahead, take it back. That's okay. That's okay. You take it back and I'll wait and see, and maybe I can do some retreat that'll hurt Greg. make you take it back, because that makes Denmark cover Kiel, and that puts Greg in North Sea. And the advantage of putting Greg in North Sea is it doesn't get him any dots. It ties up all of your units and all of Greg's units, and gives Matt a lot more flexibility on the board. Matt shouldn't have walked out. He should have let you take it, but he should not have walked out.
I actually think Matt should have just lied to me, not walked out and take the support into Romania.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. If he wasn't going to play the game of you got to dislodge me, he should, I'll move out and then not done it.
But maybe, you know, at that point, John really has better cause to be mad at him. So in the world of conversations between me and John, at this point, it's sort of like, look, Greg and I are totally at war. So we're not really talking. Matt and I are friends and we're talking, but we're rivals for the board top. So we're not really sharing information. John's sort of the wild card. And I don't know how John's going to react to what Matt did. And I just realized that, like, there's something about me that's off-putting to John. Like, and that happens. And there's a string of women in my younger years that, feel exactly the same way. But, like,
tell us more.
Yeah. Well, it's not much of a story to tell. But so I don't really communicate with John at this point. I mean, I have like 24 hours to do it. The first 10, we didn't really talk. And then he reaches out to me and he's like, what do you want to do? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I mean, I see what can be done. I know John does too. And I let him, in my mind, he probably prodded me in his mind, he thinks he prodded me. In my mind, I let him get invested in it. But he's the one under the text who suggests helping him back from me. He tells me he's totally invested in my victory, and that this was ultimate betrayal by Matt. But I already told you at the beginning of this program, I've been fooled 3 times by the guy. Like, I really need it to happen, but I don't know if it's going to happen. I think this time the board dictates it does happen. I got the Grinnell thing on me. I got that going for me. But he also John also has good relationships with France. So, it could be, anything could happen. So here we go in fall 1909. And this is where, Greg supports me in Munich while I help John into Romania. And he gets into Bulgaria. This is, by the way, Greg covers Edinburgh at this time, and Greg takes Tunis. So
this was evil, Ed. This was evil. This was the point in the game where I messaged you personally, and I said, "Jesus, man, you're just lying to everybody."
I'm lying to everybody. I'm lying to everybody. Not
It
John,
works.
but
no, because he lied to John last season. So yeah, it lied to everybody.
Yeah, and I got a Matt was pretty hurt, as you might expect. I mean, this is cruel. And I've already said that John did the exact same thing to me in 1906 when the stakes were a lot lower than 1909. And I already said I threw a temper tantrum then. And so, Matt handled it with complete class, except he was like, I saw it. It's not like I didn't think you could retake Munich and do this to me, because I figured the reason you wouldn't is that, Munich can be retaken. I just sort of said, yeah, well, that's a possibility. And I had it sort of worked out beforehand, not 100% on how that would go, but that was what he was seeing. Which caused me in 1909, I built my army, and it could still be retaken here. And this was the most stressful moment, and you can say what you will about Sandbox, but I spent, I don't know, 6 hours.
I'm not critical of Sandbox. My point is, I don't need a map to play the game.
I was going through every permutation of, you know, what could happen, and this is a weird game too, where the rules were you could talk on the phone, which I didn't really like at one point. But John called me up, or I called John. We were just talking about it, and we worked. It was a joint effort, a sandbox of essentially perfect moves, to where it was impossible, no matter what Greg did. The only thing that could screw it up is Budapest going to Galicia. That was it. That was the one move, but John really, so I sacrificed the idea of. I knew John could take Moscow. John knew it too. We worked on the sandbox together. But stopping the Galicia move was difficult, because no matter what, if he took Holland, if he took Munich, if Matt took Munich, if Matt moved Bohemia to like every permutation of the two of their moves, this series of moves stopped. That was it. I was only worried at this point about Moscow when this went in. That was it. That's where John could get me back for earlier before, but I just trusted him at that point. He seemed to have motive. And he said his price.
You trusted that he was finally and irrevocably hostile to Matt.
Yes, correct. And he said, get me Budapest. And I said, okay, which will come back to haunt me. But so I had this set of moves, and that's when, everyone's congratulating me. They realize I can take Munich back. You wrote me, Eric. Everyone wrote me. I posted the victory cigar.
That was bold. I'm not sure I'd have done the same thing. I want it over the line completely.
Well, that's how invested at the time. That's how psychologically I was like, John's with me. And then I was like, oh, John could theoretically just throw units to Matt. That's like not good.
I advocated for that strongly in private.
I know, right? Like you actually played a part in what's going to happen in fall 1910, because having just seen what happened and having worked with the man on Sandbox for a long time, late at night, I thought the odds of him turning tail would be very low, but everyone's talking about it, and now I'm like. Now I put the picture of the cigar, and I'm like, oh, this is not going to be, I don't think it's going to happen.
My point to John was, listen, you're not going to win this game. You want to get as much cred out of this game as you possibly can. If you help Ed win this game, no one's going to talk about you. If you give Matt Krill enough dots to jump ahead of Ed and win this game, they will still be talking about you, John, 3-4 years from now.
So what this did
I was right. And John made the wrong choice.
Well, so
Ed disagrees.
Yeah, I would disagree, but so meanwhile, I've got to make sure John feels comfortable. So I'm like, you can take Budapest, no problem. I'll get you into Budapest. And Greg is asking me to get John into Budapest because it makes him second place, which were, more points for the DBNI. And I was like, well, I already told John that, so, no problem. And Matt's not talking to me. And then late at night, really late, Matt reaches out to me. And he's like, you pretty much abuse me. But I would like just to remain second. You got here because maybe through my plays, and I didn't respond, or at least my memory is I didn't respond. And the next day was like a Sunday. And it's just not in my overall, I'm telling a story I'm not proud of. It's not in my overall nature, at least I don't think, to try and hurt people needlessly. I saw no reason other than, like, what favors really did Greg do for me other than put pressure on me the whole game? Like, why did that matter? We had fun together, but there was an issue there, and I did feel bad about what Matt had gone through. And Matt kept texting me, and I was like, screw it, I'm just going to call Matt. So I called Matt with like 30, 45 minutes to go before the deadline. It's like, I'm not going to do it to you. I go, these guys are giving me a lot of pressure on it. I go, but I'm just not. And he's like, thank you. I mean, his wife is on the phone. I mean, this meant a lot to Matt. I heard all this. And I'm like, okay.
You pulled out the Relief Society to lobby you?
So I got choked up a little bit, and like, it was a real positive conversation with Matt. Everything's fine.
Matt's wife asked you to not.
No. She was just on the phone saying, hi, Ed. I mean, it wasn't like okay. All right. She didn't even know me, but I heard her in the background.
I thought I was in step.
I don't want to make it seem like she in any way. Yeah, no. It was just me and Matt, but I could hear his wife in the background.
Oh, okay.
I mean, and he's such a nice guy. And he's making the trophy and, all the rest of it. So I put in my, don't help John. I can't remember if it's a phone call or text, but with like 10 minutes to go, John's is like, I can't tell if he's joking or not, but the first thing he says is, as a sign of trust, don't move St. Petersburg to Moscow.
Okay.
And he's like, and you're going to put me into Budapest, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm putting you into Budapest. And he goes, well, maybe what Eric said about me just throwing dots to Matt, is what I should do. And he's clearly messing with my head. And I'm thinking he's messing with my head, but you don't know for a fact that someone's messing with your head, right? Like, especially with 10 minutes to go before the last deadline. And I mean, I just sat there. Like I said, I mean, it's now been months. I can't remember if this on text or on the phone, but the show the trust to Moscow. Maybe I should do, what Eric and everybody else says, throw dots to Matt. I mean, Matt's taking back Tunis. I just sat there and I said, I feel horrible, but I came here to, ensure it. And so I told John, basically, it's 100% life promise that I'll put you into Budapest. And he still writes, yeah, but still leave Moscow open. And I didn't say anything to that, but I didn't trust him on that last play. I really wasn't sure what was going to happen here.
It's the last move of the game. There's nothing else that Army can do. So yeah, it's going to go back to Moscow. That was childish.
Well, yeah, but he was like, I'd make history by showing the trust and all the rest of it. And you know what? He did exactly as
he wanted to make history. He should have thrown dots to Matt Krill.
And so,
that's how you make history.
Like, I've won, and I'm thrilled about that, but I'm feeling like super crappy about having just had a phone call with Matt, in which his wife was in the background, which he left feeling really good about it. And I try to explain what happened. And of course, John is like, revisionist history. It's all going to get blamed on me now. And it went back to all our arguments from before, about like who started this thing 10 minutes to go before. And I just sort of gave up and said, mea culpa, I did what I had to do. Which, I think I've really, really burned Matt. I'm not proud of it. I just did it out of fear and panic. And that's what happened. And like I said, not only in the lewd email that started the game, I told all the competitors, it's not lying if you believed it when you said it. And I believed what I told Matt when I said it. I just didn't believe it 20 minutes later.
Did you consider not doing it even after the conversation with John?
I went back and forth on it. I wouldn't, I mean, just because I'm not beyond like really irredeemable behavior. And I felt that this might be irredeemable. I was hoping it would be somewhat redeemable if I could explain.
I got player comments to the contrary. It's here. We'll get there.
Anyways, I won. Matt's probably happy. And then I couldn't satisfy anyone because I said this to Greg. I've said it to everybody, that I wish I hadn't done that. And Greg was like, oh, well, frankly, I thought you owed me second just because, we were such good friends the whole game. It's like, everyone's just like, it is what it is. I tried, but there we go. And then Matt had to make the trophy and he was still salty, about it. And our communications were rather terse with me just sort of, rolling over, telling him whatever he wants to, like
if I'd been in your shoes, the fact that Matt was going to be the one making my trophy would have been why I did not support John into Budapest.
Yeah. But on the other hand, without John's sandboxing and support and all the rest of it, and his like what he really wanted. It's what he really wanted. To the extent where, he put that pressure on me with 10 minutes to go. Whereas if I was in fourth, I don't think I would have cared. But this is because it didn't affect his position at all. All right, fellas, that's the game.
So how did it finish? 10, 10, 9, 10, 10, 8, 7.
The final adjustments.
9, 10, 8, 7.
10, 9, 8, 7.
So as I predicted, 10 centers would win. I said that at the pre-interview. I felt that at the end of 06 as well. And so that was the magic number.
Did you think these might be your 10?
No, I think it's an unusual 10.
Yeah. Very, very, a lot more Eastern.
For Germany to win without any English dots is noteworthy.
So I think if we kept playing, I'm liking Turkey. I'm liking John. If it was a 1915 game.
No, I'm liking France because he got that retreat into Bohemia. You're screwed.
Okay. Anything more? I do have my power.
That was really interesting. What you were talking earlier about that side chat with you, Ewok, and John. And you said you didn't talk a lot of tactics, but it was a lot of, or even about the game, but there was a lot of jokes and back and forth and stuff like that. How important do you think that kind of, I don't know, rapport building is to a game, or sort of game adjacent? Do you think it's overlooked by people?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I think it explains Palace's success, an extended deadline, and which is when people feel pressure other than it's just a game. It makes, as I just explained to you, it makes making the difficult decisions even more difficult. Sometimes they won't make them. And but I'm going to say this: you can't relate to people just because you're like, well, this is my chance where I get to relate to people. If you don't want to engage and relate and get to know the other people who you are playing with, everything will come across as fake, condescending, not real, and ultimately do you harm. I am a person who is curious about other people, where they come from, how they choose to live their lives, how they look at the world. I'm very much an individualist in so many different ways that it's fantastic for me. And I also know as a lawyer, despite what all the evidence is in these interviews, is that I like to ask questions of people. That's why I do this show and get answers. That's much more telling than me talking. And I do the same thing in games, because most of the time when people talk about themselves, they think the other person's a great conversationalist. They don't really realize that, what they've been doing is giving information,
Yeah.
the whole time. But it's like in virtual, the first thing I ask everybody is, where are you from? What do you do? Tell me about yourself. And they're like, oh, I want to talk about the game. And I'm like, look, if I'm going to lie with you for 7 or 8 hours, I need to know something about you. My name's Ed. I got 3 kids. I'm a lawyer in Houston, Texas. This is, and that's how I talk.
Let's get him.
Yeah. I just can't say, let's go ahead and attack France. It's not going to do anything for me.
This is where I need to most improve my game. I don't do enough of that. That is what I have learned from watching you guys on this board. I don't do enough of that when I play. I want to talk about blocks and maps, and in the end, no one cares about blocks and maps. And
You can get away with it if your tactics are as good as yours.
I got a personality made for gunboat.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was revisiting our conversation, right? It's a conversation about. I mean, I don't think Eric thinks, and I think this is sort of a minor admission from him, that it's all about tactics. It's a game of relationships and tactics, and you got to use your strength. Eric's got a tactical gift that I don't have, but I have a gift with respect to people, I think, and I'd like to think that I have that. And so I have to use on that, but it would behoove everyone to work on the weak parts. It's fun to work on the stuff that you know what you're good at, but getting better at the thing you're not good at is not just in diplomacy. It's
and I
one of the things about life.
To make it about me just a little bit, because at the outset of this, the very first episode we did, we talked about how I wanted to take this opportunity to learn, and here's what I've learned. And what my problem isn't that I'm not personable. I am personable. My problem is time management. I don't check the messages enough and plan my time and my schedule in a way that opens me up for these hour-long conversations. And that is truly what it takes to win this game. That's why you won this tournament. And so it's kind of funny that the same thing that I have to do to be a better diplomacy player is the same thing that my wife tells me I need to do to be a better husband. My mom tells me I need to do a better son, and the bar association tells me I need to do to be a better lawyer.
Well, look, it's not all negative, Eric, right? Like, like I said, I'm getting divorced, so I magically have a lot of free time. But nobody should go into the Nexus finals without realizing that there's an exponential amount of press compared to any other game they've ever played. And if you are not, unlike every other press game that I've ever played in which at least one person is not engaged and it's a bit of a guessing game as to that person's orders, that's not the case in the finals. 7 players at maximum engagement.
Now, if I want to get to the next level, I have to plan and have better time management and make myself more available. And I've got to be more personable and open and vulnerable, because when I'm personable, I'm actually a likable guy. People who I spend the time to talk to and get to know, they always say, "Oh, I was really surprised. You're not a dick." Well, no, I'm not.
I think you're being too hard on
practice
yourself. But I think you're being too hard on yourself. But like if I was to give you one critique, at least that I've seen in Gunboat, because we've never played in extended deadline presses, people got to get there on their own. You can't bludgeon a person to the optimal set of moves. And so I would probably be less blunt. That would be one, which is like, hey, what about this? Or I have an alternate suggestion, as opposed to, no, this is the way it should be done.
I know. But one of the things about playing the game is you play the game to do the things you like. And I really, it's true. I really, really do. I have a love affair with FU. I really do.
Well, let me tell you what, you can have a love affair if they get there without you having to do it. That, in my mind, which is like, if you can get them to make the action without, and them feeling good about it. Well, this is why Umble says, like when he stabs somebody, it's just business. But when I stab somebody, it's personal. They're so like, how could you, Ed, of all people, who's built this relationship with me, knows about my kids and my life and my struggles and, you know, my day-to-day, do this to me. I engender a special kind of peculiar hatred, such as calling Matt on the phone and talking to him and talking him to, you know, like.
It's like the old Mel Brooks line. Tragedy is when I get a splinter. Comedy is when you fall down an open manhole cover and break your leg.
All right, so I prepared this little PowerPoint. Here, I'll share it. It's the last thing I think we'll do, unless you want to.
Before you do that, I got a little thing for you.
Okay.
I asked all the players to give me a real quick summary word describing your play, and I got them right here. Okay.
All right.
All right. I want to know your response to these. Okay.
You should give me the quote, and I should guess the player.
Oh, we got a different agenda here. You'll see. Liar.
Check.
Bastard.
That's not true. I'm pretty sure I knew my mom's life.
Well, you're not gonna like the rest of these. Evil lying bastard.
True. 2 parts. Evil and lying. True. I'm maintaining my mother's dignity.
Evil lying. I can't say that. I'm going to get banned again. Nope. No. All right. Here's the last one. Really did Poa proud.
You know, I'm tearing up at this point. That means that's not a joke. I mean, it was.
The rest of those was just irony. The last one's real. Okay.
Yeah. No, you know, yeah. I'm very sad he's gone, and it's a shame because it was such a fun player to play a game with, and it was a tribute to the hobby. So that last one makes me feel really good, and sad actually.
Sometimes I'm nice, even though it's by accident.
We have some Lady Razor art to go.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Here, why don't you share the screen here?
Okay, so we've got some wonderful Lady Razor artwork to review with you, Ed. And you just said that you don't like talking on the phone, and yet evidently that's not the case. This is you at the start of the game. I know you sent out your lewd plan, and was this what it was like, just like constantly fielding proposals to win you the game?
I wasn't fielding them, I was making them.
Turn you on bites early on.
Look, the genius of Matt / Lady Razor is he's got an insight into the humans who, I don't know why he can't actually play the game of diplomacy, because he always seems to lose. But he understands humanity, and he gets me. Yeah, this was me. I mean, I'm out on my. He didn't have the porch, but that's okay. For artistic license, I had the drink, I had the scotch. I was constantly messaging other people.
Look at your nails.
I think they're the colors of the German flag.
Ah, yes, of course. There we go. Oh, well spotted. I've never even spotted that. There's always things hidden.
I was going to make commentary that you would never paint your nails in multiple colors like that. but yeah, those are the German colors. That makes perfect sense.
looks like your age is being shown. There, you've got rotary telephones.
Right. I wish I had as much hair as that guy.
This is you getting greedy, early doors.
I loved it. The only thing that bothered me here is this is a series of, I'm not going to say I'm not very large, but like this sort of like criminal dress. I know he's trying to give me the German Kaiser overcoat, but like, this is the beginning of his defamatory posts about my size.
I still don't understand the shape of Denmark, but we'll just let that one go.
The other bits attached to them. So you picked up 3, although only built 2, and bounced Sweden. You busy boy.
Yeah, we went over that.
This is you signing in what I can only assume is your blood, the FG contract, and we're into the North Sea. I don't know why Conk is looking so happy, but or Tarsia. So they fell foul of this in the end. But it did feel. I don't know whether it's reputation wise or whatever, but through the game that Ewok was this looming power that would come get you, and you did very well to turn some of the assumptions made in this artwork and perhaps in chat as well on its head.
This is just what I needed.
Yeah,
I'm no threat. Matt even shows it to you.
Ewok did that to himself. He just took advantage of it.
But the dress. I mean, later on we see my rear, but the dress. Okay. Come on.
You've got some slim carbs there at least.
Right. Does this make any sense? It's not even logical.
Not just Lady Razor. I'm assuming you are one of these attacking Garthik.
Yeah.
Maybe this one.
I'll go with the one from the west, probably.
No, you're not young.
This is perhaps my favorite. The everyone go and attack Ewok, and then you don't follow through on this plan.
It's just the little things, right? Which is first of all, it's totally true, extremely accurate. Second, look at the little. Conk's an officer, right? He's got a history of success. He's a leader. He's got a name patch, Conk. We're just the Tommies. We're 2 privates, and we got to go jump over the line for Conk. So it's like, yeah, we're a team, but also realize under this construction, Conk is the leader of that team. So this is a bit of a unionization effort on Matt and my part too. So I like the whole thing. It's just fantastic.
I say it every time I see this image. I got to teach Lady Razor what exit wounds look like.
Well, sure.
a little more bloody than that, maybe. This was a big power move during the game. After he helped you, and then just pounced on Tarsia, on Spencer, heading east, throwing everything at Russia at once.
Well, I did the same thing to Matt after he helped me. I did the same thing to Conk, after he helped me. It's not the way I normally play, but when you're playing for keeps in the final game of a tournament, the circumstances demanded what I did. But I thought I really just think Spencer's just a super guy. I could tell he's really mad at me. He's probably the one who called me a bastard, but he has every right to.
Hey, none of those guys called you those names. I was being ironic.
Oh, okay.
Although they probably would, given the
it's like you can't really distinguish.
I felt comfortable with the artistic license. Okay.
this is another good one. This is the one you mentioned earlier, the four-horse race. But I've included your comment on Discord as well, which amused me greatly.
I mean, so I saw this and I was happy that it was in the sense that Greg and Matt are the threat. Even though I was topping the board, that felt good. I think at this time it came out when I was tied with Matt. And I love the John, the little horse.
Nice hobby horse.
Hobby
Whipping
horse.
himself.
You got John's buttocks. You got Greg's nipple. You got you with a gag.
I got the pigtails.
Do not want to see Lady Razor's browsing history.
Yeah, no, like I actually thought for a second the picture was of me getting raped until Matt had to point out that there was a shield between Greg and me. And so that wasn't part of it, but it was
There's frequently a shield between one party and the other. It's
the chariot. It's the front of the chariot.
So yeah, no, I was like, but look, it's hilarious. It's funny as hell. Thank God we have Lady Razor.
This is the best image of the game.
This is kind of you, but also kind of me. And I don't know if I have been
no, this is you.
Slowly moved into you, but go American sports.
Oh, okay.
I know it's not your Longhorns. They are Southern. But did I put in here? It looks like I've missed off.
Where's my Icarus?
I'll do the buttocks, but here's what you here's your prize.
It's a beautiful trophy.
The Power Trophy.
It's a wonderful trophy. My divorce lawyer told me not to buy any art. And so it's a pretty lonely apartment that I have right now, except for this. So I have
doing a lot of heavy lifting. and well deserved, but it didn't come in like a ticking box or anything like that.
I think I sent it for Anthrax review before.
Your lawyer gave you bad advice. You are well within your rights to furnish your new domicile in the style and accoutrement to which you have become accustomed in your style of life. So
thank you.
I would disagree with that opinion, but
I appreciate that. All right, so here we are. The problem with I love Icarus. Anyone who knows me knows I do not have an ass.
I've not looked closely enough.
But other than that, I thought this was hilarious.
Yeah, keep going east. Get all those dots that you might not be able to hold. It was only because you had Romania, you had Budapest, and what else did you have?
I had everything. I had everything, and then I didn't. But yeah,
various times. But
I mean,
10 was all you needed.
You at various times had Vienna, Budapest, Romania, Warsaw, Moscow. Those are all 5 dots that are east of the stalemate line. And I thought that you were going to pay. I thought you were going to pay for what I called messing around in the east where you don't belong. But in the end, you kept Warsaw and you kept Moscow. And those other units you used to create enough chaos that no one was able to pass you up, which kept you in a position to be able to win at 10 without having a single English dot or Belgium.
I'm a genius.
That's a real accomplishment as a Germany, and it's really, really noteworthy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I thought I would do Game of Thrones references for everybody, and I took the descriptions from some fan site, but Conk often leads those who do not know him well to underestimate him as a cheerful and vapid flatterer. In reality, he is a cunning and ruthless manipulator of court politics. So he's Varys the spider. There's nobody who's got more fingers in every pie than Conk. He's baking the pies, he's creating them, he's destroying them, he's telling you other people are building better pies. But I did a tribute. This is my appropriation of Lady Raider's tribute to Conk from season 5, which is him digging his own grave with the Memoirs of the Curse of Conk, written there. And Conk, make sure everyone knows I was the people's choice. And by the way, he came back from this in that season from a 1 center turkey to 5 or 6, and maybe 7. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of his. I can't say the opposite right now, but I actually think we could grab a beer and be just fine. So if you watch Game of Thrones, I got Karthik as Joffrey.
Is that Macaulay Culkin?
No, it's an Irish guy who was proud of his abilities,
I want to say,
for no reason. So with Joffrey basking in his glory, he was not very interested in planning his own wedding, including its security, which is where he died. No spoilers for a show that was a decade old. But anyways, I love this picture from Lady Razor of Karthik also, and it really helped me. It really helped me as well when people started fearing him, and I think it helped Spencer want to work with me. That was fantastic. So when I think of Game of Thrones and Eric, I realize you may not have watched the show if you didn't know who Joffrey was, but you should. Jorah's a guy who's been sort of, had his problems earlier in his life, serving a bit of a penance, and is a very faithful person to his queen. I felt like he was very faithful to me, and I did nothing except decide that he needed to die.
Yeah, and tries not to kill his opponent if such option was possible, and you killed.
You made a real nice slide here for Spencer, but I got to tell you, the slide that I came up with was better. The candy.
I like how you process everything through what you would have done, Eric. Okay, this is my favorite. Robin Aaron is like the 12-year-old who still, feeds on his mother's breast. I made that John. He's like distracted, shows little sense of resolve, and struggles to come to conclusions that were obvious to everyone else. This is more of a joke with John because he just plays the fool. He's not the fool. He would want me to say that he plays the fool. He'd want me to say that he is a fool. But all of this just builds into the John narrative. John is actually not Robin Aaron. He's ruthless and cunning as well. It's just trying to make it happen as Turkey, right? It's wanting everyone else to fight so he could scoop up behind. But underestimate John, who I said I would give credit for my victory, which I do. John, gave it to you now. Even though you frustrated me the whole game, is a fantastic player. This is revenge for Matt calling me Gollum. You don't really know who Theon is, or more like Reek, but he was a guy tortured and abused by another character on the show who enjoyed skinning people, and it really messed with his head. I feel like I did that to Matt.
Well, I want to ask you, a few minutes ago, you mentioned that you don't have any buttocks. Have you checked on Matt's anatomy? Sorry, Eric.
I'm just saying I skinned Reek a bit in this one. I think I'm really proud of this one, calling him Littlefinger. I think this is like the biggest compliment. The guy who sees all the moves, knows all the plays, and is really pulling all the strings and creating chaos while making it seem like he's there to help. So the fact that Greg and Conk or Littlefinger and Varys, who are sort of two rivals with different styles, I thought was perfect for them. And of course, If
Even I know who ran.
No, you're nicer than Ramsey.
if Reek is Ramsey's victim, I had to be Ramsey.
Oh dear, I'm just trying to think who I would have you guys now, but it's hard. It's hard. No, yeah, maybe.
That stamp that Lady Razor drew for you is very nice. You did very nice things with that jawline.
Yeah, I need it. Yeah, no, he did that. It's all the little details. The people should, if they don't know what the Latin means, I'm not going to tell you, but you should read what it is. It's very much to my personality. And then I love the ad infinitum ad nauseum, especially like this, which might be a 3-parter. Boys, I got nothing left. You've extracted all the marrow of this game. I can't thank you enough. Just like from my perspective, people were asking me not to play the finals if I couldn't do the show. And I think we found, more than qualified, and not just that, but enthusiastic and fantastic commentators. I love both of you. So thank you for doing that. And I don't think people realize what a giant pain it is to get these shows out on time, because it's constant. And
Struggle
so
is just the time zone gap.
We struggle to schedule time because we are like 1/3 of the world apart from each other. It's like the worst possible thing. We still owe a semifinal game. Do we just owe one semifinal game, Chris?
my semifinal game and Conks.
You don't need one. but Conk needs his done because he played a masterful turkey, and the world needs to be enlightened by how well he played it. In all of his humility, he has repeatedly and consistently asked us to make sure we did his episode last, and we're gonna. He did it in such a polite and tactful way, so we're gonna honor his wishes. But the show
I'm also hoping
has to be done. Conk is and has been a good friend to me. He puts up with my crappy sense of humor. He encourages me when I get frustrated. He got done very, very dirty in this game, but I will say I truly admire how well he played turkey in his semifinal game. I'm looking forward to covering his game, and he deserves respect for that. I also
something to look forward to.
I also want to say, Ed, I know that you have suffered from some for having asked me to participate in these episodes. I appreciate
take the heat.
I appreciate you giving me the chance. I know originally we talked about it was going to be my show and I was going to host. And because of things that were going on in my life, I didn't get it together, and Wardy became the host. I think it worked great that way. I think it worked awesome this way.
It's been great fun.
It has been my pleasure and my honor to do these shows, so much so that it makes me glad that I didn't do well in my semifinal game.
Eric, too much praise, but thank you. Two things. One is your last show should be Lady Razor. That's traditional at the end of the season. If you can get Matt to talk about the art, because Matt then reveals all the things that we missed in the art
amazing
that he wanted people to see. And the issue of the host is like, this is just a copy of the formula where I asked the questions to Umbo, says he knows a lot about the game, and he does. And I got better. So I thought, well, let's get somebody as ignorant as I was back in the day to ask someone who knows more about the game. So Wardy, I think we're looking at the season 10 champ if you continue.
I will take the under on that one.
Maybe 15.
We should also have another episode. We should have We should have a Survivor reunion episode. We should have all 7 players come do a show.
I'm not sure you're gonna get them, but we can make.
We can try. Hey, you have a go at me. I'm second only to Conk in the ODC after round 1. So
There you go, Wardy.
you know.
What's
You
the
know.
ODC?
Pardon?
What's the ODC?
You're in it. The one on Play Dip.
Oh, I just don't have art out of that.
All right, fellas, are we done? Anything to wrap
Ed,
up?
congratulations again, and thanks for letting us keep your seat warm.
Thank you guys. You're members of the crew. Do whatever you want. I'll put the recordings up.
I will quote you, sir.
All right. Well, okay. Chris, do whatever you want. I will maintain veto power. Otherwise. All right. Enjoy, guys. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Ed.
All right.
Thanks for your time.
Take it easy.